not only against other international teams, but against teams in their very own region. They just took the overtime win against BDS, and they're looking for their third win on the day against Team One. Obviously going to be some tough competition. We'll get to see how exactly they fare out as we're getting into the action now, and the bans are going to come on screen in just a sec.
And I love that you pointed that out about Team One, about how much they have been playing Oregon, because looking through these guys' match history as of late, their last 11 matches, they've played Oregon 7 times. That is an unbelievable amount of a singular map inside of a map pool that is starting to grow more and more by the season. So Team One on a mainstay map for them, but that means that the Empire is going to have a lot of VOD coming into this. Thatcher ban going to be the first initial offender ban, and the second one going to be Habana here, as Team One will be starting us off for the defensive bans.
A little more info on how we ended up getting towards this map. Now, both the previous matches for Team One, this was banned out by both G2 and Cloud9. In fact, it was the initial ban from Cloud9. So other teams definitely aware of the potential prowess that we could see from Team One on this map, but Team Empire deciding that, heck, it's worth the risk. They'll give it a shot here on the inside of this game. We'll see if that pans out. Defender bans are working their way in here. We're going to get Maestro and Wamai. So following meta trends, globally at least, relatively well in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Team One not going to be banning the Valkyrie out here that we have been seeing them ban quite a lot on the defense here for Oregon. Instead of going to be banning out the Maestro. They have been switching out these defensive bans throughout the season. Mostly, obviously, like we were talking about, prioritizing the Valkyrie, but Jaeger, Maestro, Clash, as well as Kaid, all working themselves into those bans through one means or another. But either way, that is going to be our ban list here for Oregon, as Empire will start us out on defense downstairs.
We're going to see an Echo play coming pretty much immediately here from Empire as well, although never mind, man. We're getting caster curse like crazy
every
today
time.
It's happened to me like 3 times already, and I've only casted one map, and like, 10% of it, if you even count this at 10% at this point. But either way, that's going to get picked away, so never mind about that point about Echo. We'll talk about him when he becomes relevant, which is not right now. Instead, we'll have the Mira pick from Scyther there, which is a little bit more of a welcome addition on this site, I think.
Yeah, 2020 Echo called. I think he wants his invisibility back. So, like,
I mean, he's still getting picked. That's the thing. He's not out completely, as we saw in that last game. But
I mean, hey, can you cramp on the man's style though? I mean, you got 2 drones. They have some amazing utility usage across any map. Really, the only thing now is obviously you have to play with them a little bit more safer as opposed to how you used to. You used to be able to slap them on a ceiling and not really have to worry about them unless an IQ was in play or somebody had some really good ears on their head. But either way, not going to have to deal with that this time around. Empire going with a fairly straightforward setup downstairs. Really like what they're doing with these Banshees, especially here with Joystick, just trying to limit any initial pushes down low, which will give them a good read as to where Team One wants to start off.
We'll see how exactly that push from Team One is going to go, as Stokes was just mentioning. You'll talk about the utility a little bit here for Team One in terms of what they brought to the table. It's a lot of soft and hard destruction for the most part there. That's pretty much their entire comp right now. But this does align pretty well with what we've been seeing from a lot of teams that Ash picks, specifically going up behind not only that as well, but Joystick kind of find some heat pretty early on due to that aggressive clear to the inside of the kitchen and a nice pre-fire angle going onto the staircase that actually knocks off a pretty considerable portion of Joystick's HP. He's going to be forced down those freezer stairs as a result of that and back into the depths of the site. They try to pull off the same exact thing against Always there, although he seems a little bit quicker on the catch and is able to fall back before the actual breach is made, and the attempt to kill him is taken by Team One.
I think it's also worth noting, talking about the utility game here for Team One, that they have never banned out Habana prior to this on their Oregon play. This is going to be new for them when it comes down to this, but you obviously can't blame them looking at this lineup, bringing the Thermite in as well as the Maverick. They have plenty of utility to try and deal with this hatch, but do they have plenty of utility to deal with these players in this aggressive push from Joystick up freezer stairs right now? KDS not going to drone him out, pushes forward, gets eviscerated by Joystick. What a move and what a read early by the Empire Fragger.
Unfortunate mistake there being made, or an unfortunate miss, I guess would be more appropriate to say there. Continuing trend for Team One has been the hit or miss play from KDS. The first game we saw Team One playing today, for instance, not having the greatest overall performance, specifically at the beginning of the game, but rebounding very well in Team One's second game. But however, on an incredibly important role such as Ash, the KDS is currently playing, it's important that we highlight these things, as that player's performance can often make or break at least the momentum that an attacking team will be bringing into a round. So now that they've lost KDS, things are going to slow down and be pretty risky at this point forward here from Team One. Now they're down a player. They've lost the utility as well. Any additional fight is going to be a massive risk to their health in this round, so they're having to be very careful, but at the same time, still needing to try and speed things up a little bit as a nice find is found there for Levy, spamming in, catching Joystick before a second kill can be stolen away against Team One's roster.
But look at the amount of time that Joystick has swept under the rug here for Team One. Yes, he might have only gotten one frag, but I mean, the timer down to 20 seconds, and now Team One have to make a forcible move. Dan with a double kill with one spray through E-Box. Scyther to try and pick it up as well, takes down Levy. It's all left up to Neskin to try and clutch it out, but don't see him getting too far here from Boiler. It's a swing from every single angle, but finally Scyther from E-Box takes him down. That's going to be a double kill from multiple members here as Empire start off Oregon strong.
I mean, that's an incredibly solid hold from Empire. No two ways about it there, especially when you consider the free pick that they get at the beginning of this round that never really gets responded to until those very late moments when it's not even a direct response at that point anyway, and is a completely separate engagement. Team One, obviously something that they can very quickly fix, but just more ample droning power. But obviously things are going to continue. This will potentially continue to be a problem as we move into another site here. Team Empire is going to be able to play into this aggressive game even more so. Probably not, you know, to an excessive degree on this specific site, but we will be seeing it in the future, to be sure, and it's definitely an issue the Team One are going to have to fix sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the biggest thing right now is that that round sets pace for Empire here, especially inside of the playmaking department, right? They're practically living inside of Team One's head rent-free for the moment, especially Joystick with those big early kills. And even though Team One were able to get the frag on top main, all that does is prove to them that Joystick is willing to make these risky plays. So that's something that they're going to have in the back of their head constantly. And we all know the kind of player that Joystick is. He's very, very strong when it comes to a play style like this, and he knows how to control people and what to do to get them into poor engagement. So we'll see if he can manage that on this defensive side and really show how dominant Empire can be. And just to say this, because we haven't got to cast, or at least I haven't got to cast Empire yet today, I am so very impressed by these guys and what they have done so far throughout this land, especially from what they had done inside of the EOL. This just seems like, you know, a completely different team. They seem like an echo of their former selves over this last year, but now with Empire back on land, this seems to be where this squad, you know, has just a really, really strong stride.
It's a lesson that North America has been learning over the past few months with the transition to full LAN play on the inside of their league, but also a lesson that I think a lot of viewers are going to be learning over the next couple days, is that LAN Siege plays for quite a few teams incredibly different, and for some teams that can mean worse play as well. So you're going to be in for some very surprising results, considering that the last year and a half of play has been largely regional, and of course for the most part online. Also some very major shifts in the overall gameplay is happening here at SI, as we are finally getting another opportunity to see that crossplay. More importantly, for everybody to play on LAN, live on location in Paris as well.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? We haven't done this since February of 2020, and I mean, John, until I was able to actually get out to Vegas and start seeing some things and try and set up my life, I hadn't seen your beautiful face in forever, man. So it's nice to have LAN back once again, and not only that, but now have Team One fragging back as they take down the former player that was just giving them way too many issues. Joystick down for the count for round 2.
Obviously a much slower start here for Team One. The first kill we've seen, the first real bit of aggression, I'll be honest, we've seen it all from Team One on the inside of this round, and it doesn't happen until about halfway through it. So still a lot more work to be done for Team One. There was similar clears being done in the previous round here. Scyther with a bit of a Hail Mary Nitro cell being sent over the top, trying to capitalize on a small amount of control that Team One has taken towards that master bedroom, but unfortunately it is thrown way too early. Team One has not really moved in to take full control of that as of yet. So the Nitro cell going to be a complete miss, as the rest of Team One gets prepared to set up for a little bit of aggression to move forward, namely trying to take out that Banshee right now with the nade. Drifted a bit to the left, but still got the job done. As we can see, that Banshee no longer there. So Levy can move up and gets a nice pick for his wrist taken there. Dan down on the ground, not full killed as of yet, but we are going to see Team One collapse onto the site with this entry going into their favor.
KDS with a strong position on white as well to be able to hold things down. Always with 2 big frags, but immediately gets refragged. That's going to be Case down as well. It's all left up to Scyther. He'll be able to find one. Can he get the second kill here, though? 2 people currently on white stairs. Legonis just has the angle. Too difficult for Cypher to try and come, or Scyther, excuse me, to combat, and ends up falling off. So Team One with their very first round. Now, does Empire attempt to try and hold on to the upstairs once again here? We go down to kitchen. That's the main question. But overall, just a really strong clear there for Team One. Very strong pacing, just not really giving up anything of the sort like they did inside of that previous round.
More importantly, that doesn't happen, as far as I can tell anyway, it doesn't happen as a result of a pre-planned execute. That's kind of a spur-of-the-moment take from Team One after they get that initial down onto Dan. The player, Levy, over by the doorway, notices, I think, that they actually don't have a lot of coverage past that point after they down Dan. So the call is made like, let's take a risk here. Let's send the 3 players that we have by Walken and, of course, Levy himself. Let's send them into the site and make an attempt. And it ends up working out well because they get pretty much undefeatable positioning that makes it nearly impossible for Empire to retake at that point in the round after they start to get the Case down under their control. So some really good work there from Team One to not only take control of the site, but take it in a relatively unexpected way.
Yeah, and honestly, that was written up right from the beginning as well, with the way that they were able to dissect Shower and clear over into kitchen, really put that pressure onto Joystick downstairs, or excuse me, always and force him into kind of, you know, poor decision making. So they were actually able to hold on to white stairs, because that was the biggest deal there for Team One. Not only was it able to safely harbor KDS, but also another member of Team One later on in that round. I believe it was the Thermite actually of Legonis, able to skimper on over into white as well and find some safer areas to play around. So Team One just doing a really good job of cutting up this map before they're actually going for these bigger plays. Team Empire need to try and battle back, especially inside of the frag department, as that seems to be where both of these teams are currently having the battlegrounds.
Now that we're in Oregon, interesting statistics so far. Thank you, Medics, for this information, by the way. Apparently we... Pardon.
You okay over there, buddy? You falling apart? Get him some cough drops or something, folks. Don't worry about it. He's he'll be okay. He'll be okay. It's first day here. Got to get the vocals warmed up and everything. You guys know how it is. But either way, Team One, Team Empire, so far so good for both of these teams. Really impressed with what Team One have been able to do today, especially not just inside of this match. Yes, they're able to pick up their initial round, but it hasn't been all peaches and cream so far. But just to remind you guys, if you guys have not been watching throughout the day, you need to go back. You need to watch Team One versus G2. Especially for our friend Alamau, the Buck currently, who is just such an incredible fragger that we haven't been able to see on an international stage.
Sorry about that. I had something caught in my throat for a second. In fact, I think it's still there a little bit.
I think it's all of the excitement for this match between Team Empire and Team One.
All this talking, you know, I'm getting so excited about things, so my throat's just apparently not ready for that. But either way, as we get deeper into this round here, we've got Team One already working on opening up the attic options for themselves to be able to move forward. But once again, unfortunately, we're going to see the entry here, KDS, fall to Joystick, leaving them without that pivotal first member of the team trying to work their way in here. And unfortunately, again, fighting from a 4v5 disadvantage as well.
Well, Joystick having his name inside of every single opening so far, whether it be on the receiving or the delivering end. 2-1 right now on these entries, and for Team One, it's going to make things quite difficult. As you were talking about earlier, John, KDS, kind of a hit or miss player when it comes to these openings. He can find some major frags, but when Joystick is shooting like this, and oh no, backs it up with the impact as well. That's going to be the exothermic down. Does he have any more? He does not. They do not have any more exothermic charges to get Master open. They'll have to use Levy to try and find another means into this site. Don't necessarily know what's going on with Attic here either. This might be down to the funnel, but actually Cypher ends up getting taken down as he challenges Levy outside, but he deals so much damage back onto Levy.
Levy given a great opportunity there to at least bring Team One slightly back into this round with at least one kill being worked into their favor. No longer at the 2-player deficit, just that one they have to worry about. But even that can be so dangerous, as we already saw back in the first round here. This is the full pre-fire from Neskin, and it works out as he swings his way into security to take down Always. Now we're even again in a 3v3, but just like, you know, at least the first round that we played out inside of this map, time is going to become the major problem here for Team One as they try to work their way in. 1-for-1 exchange to start it out, but they've also already lost Levy. They're going to go for the res at 5 seconds here to try to bring him back and allow for the double swing to go to the inside of the site. Nothing is being presented to them, though, and the timer will eventually run out, giving Team Empire the round.
Team Empire just looks so dynamic at this LAN, Blue. I mean, every single scenario that they are presented, they are able to pass it with flying colors. And once again, it's going to go off without a hitch inside of the 2v2 there. I mean, just such amazing stuff from Empire, really using that clock to their advantage, not overswinging things and forcing Team One to be the squad that has to make the poor move. Either way, though, Team Empire now edging out Team One here 2-1 as they will be headed back downstairs after completing that site triangle.
Yep, so not even really needing to test the third point on their site triangle at this point either, as we never had to go for the first floor defense for these guys. So we'll possibly get an opportunity to see that if Empire continues to excel on this defensive side and picks up the next 2 rounds out, or picks up at least this round outright here, as they'll still be locked for upstairs at that point and be forced into playing that. But let's find out and see here. This was a pretty solid, just a fairly standard bunker hold from Empire as well here, focusing all their defense on the basement itself, save for having those extended positions play into just the extremities of the staircases leading out from the basement. And other than that, kind of letting Team One work their way in and letting the defensive utility do most of the delay work.
Yeah, no, this isn't too insane of a setup when it comes down to it. This is something that's extremely straightforward that we've been seeing quite a bit of. Granted, the mirror windows are a little new when it comes down to it, at least for the regions that we work, but obviously Mira is somebody that is in the lineups all the time, and obviously no one is a stranger to a closet Mira setup. This has been something that we've seen a million times over and over again inside of any game, just not necessarily something that we see happen a lot inside of competitive, but that does not mean that it can't work for Empire. Especially what I was going to say for Team One, having these nades, they're going to have some pretty strong access to a lot of this utility to break it up and actually work their way in towards site, but they need KDS to stay alive this time around, as those breaching rounds are going to be worth their weight in gold. Yes, they do indeed have frag grenades, but these people also have jobs to do as well, and if they're able to stay on top of those, they might be able to find some very well put frags later on down the line, especially with the ban of oNe coming through.
Another important note too, as why it might be a bigger deal to lose someone like a Zofia or say like an Ashe at the beginning of the round, since we are on LAN right now, like the physics work a little bit differently too, and that could affect.
That's a huge thing.
That could affect things like the usual nade lineups that players are used to and things like that. So those forms of utility, like just the general chuck utility, isn't as reliable for the first couple days here while everybody's getting reused to how it works in the LAN client.
Yeah, we've had some really funny things happen with the LAN client every once in a while, but that is one thing, is that like some of the physics can definitely be different. It's sledging, actually, fun fact, sledging floors is completely different on the LAN client as opposed to online. Don't necessarily know how that works. I've literally played on the LAN client a singular time inside of my casting career, so
it's things like the timings, like the timing that the nade or like the swing potentially takes place, that where you actually see it is a lot more instantaneous on LAN. So whereas on an online client you'd have to have like a little bit of a lead up to some of your stuff for the server to recognize it. You obviously don't have that on a one ping server, so
yeah, it's not a true one-to-one. You have some ping, you have some latency in between what you're doing and it actually happening on the server. Completely understand where you're coming from, and thank you for the beautiful explanation, my friend.
Yeah, I know we've gone on about it for about 2 minutes now, but hey, it's not a basement defense, so it's not like a whole lot else was going on in the process there. We've got Team One with some solid control, a base to work with here, but the problem is it's been fended off fairly well by Team Empire. Quick little trade from Levy, and he's going to keep it going even further here, dropping in to take out Always as well, as this fight now devolves into a 3v3. Team One having full back basement control, but only 30 seconds to transition it into a plant.
Well, Team One come in with the shock and awe. They take down Always inside of the construction door, and able to work their way inside of sight now. Joystick with a very nice frag. Levy follows up, though, as Joystick gets the double. Looking for the triple now as Leganis is trying to find some safe space, but he can't do so. The wall that they busted up to try and deal with Empire inside of sight proves to flip right back on itself as Joystick uses that angle to actually find the demise of Team One. That's going to be a triple kill for him on the round, and it looks like the Russian machine is indeed back.
Really got to appreciate that very front and forward play from Joystick right there, especially after he gets the first pick from the inside of the freezer doorway, swinging out towards the pillar. Very aggressive move at that point, but this is one way that Empire has been able to excel, and not only this game, but some of their earlier matches as well. It's been by really trying to dictate the pace of these rounds here, and it's not to a degree where they're taking any massive risks. That's a slight problem I had with, for instance, BDS's defense. We can talk more about that in a later game, but we've been seeing some other teams make like a little bit of overextensions on their defense, trying to do the same exact thing where they look to take control of a round and ultimately end up losing more players as a result of that, as they put players so far out that they can't be traded. Team Empire is doing this really well, though, and is usually only trying to make those aggressive plays when they know it's going to be a pretty safe bet for them, and it's working out so many times. It's a very, very clean, a bit of aggression there that you often don't see executed with such finesse.
Yeah, and that's truly what it is, right? The finesse of what they're able to accomplish with this, because anybody can try and, run at somebody with a gun and try and get something to happen, but the way that Empire are doing it is completely surgical, and that's the best part about it. And honestly, when it comes down to it, it's just Joystick and not his mentality, but mostly just his game sense in what he's been able to produce so far inside of these rounds. That one in particular, if we want to talk about and use it as its example, he gets that initial frag on the entry of KDS, but he knows that somebody should be holding his freezer hall from pillar, so when he swings out, it's actually all of Team One not truly focused on the freezer hallway or even the freezer door. In fact, they have no one positioned in pillar. They have to swing from the soft panel that they were using to try and hold onto the angles inside of the stock area, and that's why Joystick's able to just pressure out there, find that frag, and then hold the counter angle directly into sight to get that last kill as well. He's just breaking down how Team One should be holding things and winning those gunfights. It's just such a beautiful thing to see, when it goes in such a convincing fashion one way.
The other important factor of that, too, is if you can dictate a very aggressive stance for yourself on the defensive side and make your opponents constantly need to expect those types of aggressive plays,
the second guess,
it's going to naturally slow down the take from the attacker's side, and that will just make it all that much more easier for the defense, because Team One is going, or whoever the attacker may be, and just obviously for this specific example, they're going to take more time, like double droning, triple droning things to make sure that that type of play potential isn't opened up, and that will, bleed more time off the clock for you pretty much for free, and all you have to do is dictate that. You don't even necessarily have to get aggressive. If your opponents think it's going to happen, they're more likely going to waste that extra time double checking things.
Yeah, and the craziest part about this is that we haven't seen the most insane rotations by Joystick just yet. This is probably the round where we've seen him on the deepest round over here towards meeting. But like, for instance, on the basement site, he obviously didn't rotate that much across the map. He just went in between staircases and things like that. So it's still areas that Team One should be worried about, but we'll have to see if they're able to solve that issue a little later on here. Alamau now, excuse me, challenging deep into Dorns, but not able to get the frag. Joystick actually, from a counter angle, once again goes all the way up into Big Tower, able to find a frag. It's finally refragged, though, by KDS, always with one of his own, and as he pushes forward for yet another angle here inside of Attic, and he gets in. He takes down Leganis. No one watching him. Alamau trying to find the frag. Pistol out for the German operator, but always seemingly dies as well. Not always alive, as we were hopefully seeing so there inside of Dorns. Either way, amazing play that grants Empire some amazing foothold here inside of round 5.
Alamau, you can see this cautiousness now that you're seeing from Team One, more so because we're in a 2v3 more than anything else, but this is what we were talking about earlier in the beginning of the round. Joystick gonna get caught by Alamau, though. A beautiful find from him through the wall after locking into the fact that Joystick was playing on top main stair, sprays in to catch him and does the job fully well. Now we're in a 2v2. There's an unaccounted for player sitting under the attack. In fact, both of the Team Empire players are currently under this assault right now. We're going to see those toxic babes work their way out to try and stop this plan attempt. It's going to go go in a moment, though. The problem is they do need to drop down, take control of the first floor in order to make this happen. But Levy gets the job done. A very crucial find. Nearly gets the second kill. But here's the issue. Now, all Dan has to do was run in, deny the plant, and he should be able to get the job done.
Ooh.
There you go. Alamo goes down. Very close to the timing. Almost gave Alamo that extra second or two he needed to get his gun out. But unfortunately, not to be the case. Dan has full control of the situation on Doc. And more importantly, Empire has control over the round.
If Alamo actually skeleton keyed Dan there, I don't even know what I would have done. Like that got very scary there for just a second with the amount of time allotted for Dan to sprint across there as a 1-speed operator. But either way, Empire able to make it out of the thick of it. 4-1 currently up against Team One and simply dissecting their play as Empire continuously find these initial frags. But you can't even say that it's Empire. Let's be honest for a second. It's really Joystick. Joystick has just been so strong so far throughout Oregon, and it's not even finding frags through the same means. He's able to do this in so many different ways. Team One don't even know where to look. That time alone, they're able to hold on to main stairs. They're making sure these flanks are covered and everything else in between, but the one thing they're not worried about, the soft panels at the other end of attic, and that's where he's able to find that opening frag and just steamroll over Team One, get it down and eventually into that 2v2, yes, but still, Team Empire are starting off the round at an advantage, and that's something that you can never argue against, especially when you're the defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's happened almost every single round, save for one, so aligns pretty well with the general trend of the scoreboard here, too. So it takes us back to the importance of what we've been seeing out of players like KDS, where there's a little bit more of a hit or miss opening here, and that's potentially either preventing or allowing some more success or failure out of Team One in these early round situations and trying to set them up for the late round. So we'll see if they can put together one more round here before the half closes out, and they are put onto the defensive side of Oregon. As we talked about in the pregame, this is, generally speaking, a very comfortable map for Team One. They played this a lot of times in recent history, but it should also be noted the win-loss streak on it is relatively middle of the road, despite their relative acceptance to play on this map. And they don't have the greatest record on it around, I think you said it was like 50-52% for a win rate overall for them. So still seeing some losses here, and clearly Team Empire felt they were up to the challenge, where Cloud9 and G2 did not feel that same comfortability. And so far, Team Empire's gamble on this has paid off pretty well at a 4-1 scoreline.
Yeah, they're doing extremely well. You know, and that also comes into this round. I mean, yes, they have already gotten some damage off onto Scyther, but they've been able to back this off slowly. So we'll see if Empire will maintain control of this pacing throughout. Neskin and the rest of Team One, though, have been very strong inside of the intel department, inside of this round especially, that they've been able to clear out a lot of these areas where they've had problematic issues so far. Alamau now with a nice angle onto the Jaeger of always, but he doesn't seemingly want to move just yet. Going to force Team One's hand to try and make him move. Obviously going to be full HP inside of this gunfight. More than likely has ADSs in tow as well, so we'll have to see what Team One can do here. But once again, guys, it's Joystick, and he downs Neskin, finishes off with a pistol, damn with a headshot onto KDS, and Team One's plans completely go by the wayside. Alamau with one frag, can he get the second? Doesn't seemingly get the opportunity. Stun grenades through upstairs, and aggravation as Team One fall flat inside of round 6.
The bait and switch from Joystick there, all the focus going on to always hiding out in security.
Oh my God!
Joystick just literally running a playground here in the back of the map. Everyone from Team One's invited. Unfortunately, everyone from Team One is losing the challenge being presented by Joystick as well. We'll see if he can get him what I believe would be his 4th kill on the round here, if he can take down Lagonis. Problem is going to be, he's only got that little tiny sliver of HP left. Tries to go for the pre-fire. Juts a little bit too far to the right and ends up missing the damage onto Lagonis. He will finally trade out Joystick, but what in the heck can he do now in a 1v3 where he has virtually zero position to work with?
Yeah, I never realized that Joystick was a doctor, because this guy's running a clinic. This is absolutely insane gameplay right now from him. He's a one-man wrecking crew, and we'll have to see more of the same here from Lagonis as he starts off strong. 1v2 now for him as he takes down the initial one. The AK-12, such a strong weapon when it comes down to it, but does it duel out against the SMG-11? But can it duel out against Shepard? That's the real question, as it's the burst from the SMG-11 to get the headshot, and Team One cannot find their footing. They're falling down on the entry kills, and they cannot get these executes off on Empire. That's the half as we enter round 7 with Team Empire up 5-1.
Well, a pretty definitive scoreline, if I do say so myself, there from Team Empire, and not even really accountable to the side advantage or anything like that at this point. This is just raw domination on that defensive half from Empire, especially when it came to their control of the early round. Virtually unmatched throughout that half, save for 1 or 2 rounds where Team One was able to get some solid ground to work with. The problem was players like Joystick just constantly getting those free picks against Team One that never got responded to at any point in the round. The members of Team One having to constantly try to go for either 4v5, 3v4, in some cases 3v5 executes, and just never really having either the fragging power or, in the cases of basement attacks, the utility to properly get past the setup from Team Empire in that half.
Yeah, and you can, well, like we were talking about before with Empire and their very strong defensive half. The thing that I wanted to talk about inside of what they were doing, especially for Team One inside of their operator lineup, is we didn't see a single change, all except the last round. We saw Ace come in for the Thermite. We're already having some different utility pieces come in for Empire here on their offense, and the main one being Joystick on the Jackal. That is huge when it comes to this roam clear. They also could have went with something like a Nomad that really would have limited Joystick's potential to roam throughout Oregon and cause a lot of trouble, but no changes were made to the Team One lineup. And as I said before, the only one being inside of the hard breach department, not bringing differentiating utility to try and help them inside of these areas of the game that they were lacking. So now Team One going to be on defense. It's going to be quite a different look when it comes down to it. We'll have the laser gates on board as well as the Goyo shields.
Looking at the play from Clubhouse, it's interesting to see, of course, the Jackal being brought in again, and it's more important to note that the Ash was also missing from the initial attacking round for Empire. They did the same exact thing in their previous matchup, and more than likely, depending on how this round goes, we'll decide if they continue to use this operator lineup, or more than likely switch the Ash in should they decide to need the extra utility or breaching power, as we saw back on Clubhouse there. So pay close attention to that as we get into the 8th and 9th rounds after this. But for now, trying to focus a little more on the utility that can be brought to the table here, seeing if they can work it without the Ash, which has been so pivotal to so many teams recently. Shepard, of course, just quickly dealing with the hatches, but it's Team One that starts out well this time. Joystick getting caught trying to work down those freezer stairs, and that's going to be a free one going over to Team One.
Yeah, speaking of free, I think Joystick thought there was a freebie somewhere down there for him, but all he found was the end of an M590. That's going to be the initial frag here. That's going to be a big one for Team One as well. Joystick currently 10-0-6, but he'll be having to sit on the bench for the rest of round 7 as Empire have to try and get through this neck of the woods. Still have to deal with a lot of the strong positions taken up by these Team One members. KDS still playing right inside of the construction door here, as the rest of Empire currently stuck up around hatches as well as these stairwells trying to work their way in. It looks to be a laundry freezer take as of right now, but that could change up at a moment's notice. Still have a minute here on the clock, but the biggest deal being that Empire still quite a few frag grenades, and those are going to be a necessity to clear out quite a bit of this utility. They're also starving for intel when it comes down to these drones, but they can use Dan for that to try and find some of these frags. Huge one here for Scyther as he takes down Levy. The Nitro Cell falls out of the hand and won't be used for the rest of the round. Second one follows through, only able to catch a drone though. So we enter our last 30 seconds.
Go into our last 30 seconds here with slight edge, of course, towards Team One, but that could change at a moment's notice, and here's the moment. Shepard already picking up Alamau, bringing the overall Team One roster down to just 3, but those 3 remaining players staying stalwart, most notably KDS in his pivotal position by the laundry room side closet here. Drops the case carrier, but it's going to get immediately re-picked up and now reattempted by Dan. Problem is, you got Neskin working his way back in from the back of the site here also, causing problems. More importantly, Lagonis going forward, and with Neskin picking up that last kill as well. Team One absolutely destroy these few stragglers remaining from Empire's attack and take control of a very important opening round here in the second half.
Well, Team One never not in control inside of round 7. It starts off early with that frag onto Joystick on freezer stairs, and they were able to hold on to mostly every facet of the site, all except for the main laundry area when it came down to it. Eventually able to retake through freezer that found them that last frag, but Empire just not having the amount of guns alive necessary to hold the angles in order to get that plant down inside of the 2v2. So Empire Empire will have to go back to the drawing board, and it seems like they're already going to be doing so as they take Joystick off of the Jackal and put him back onto the Ashe.
So there's going to be that change that we talked about needing to see. Joystick as well taking up the mantle there, which should be interesting to see considering that I believe we had Dan playing it in the last matchup there, and they decided to keep Joystick on the Jackal for at least a few of their attacking rounds in the previous game. So a little bit of a different approach being taken here, but it makes sense when you consider how many things need to be checked, specifically with drones. So the addition of the Yana should actually be pretty useful here when compared to the alternative for Empire right now. We'll see, of course, if there's going to be any crazy stuff coming in for the Team 1 setup on their upstairs hold. Not looking like it from the operator count and the overall setup we've seen so far. Much like a lot of the other teams, everything aligning pretty well with what you generally get set up on this upstairs site, as well as the extended play into the kitchen downstairs too.
Yeah, it seems as though the matter of opinion when it comes to defensive utility is really up to people's enjoyment of Goyo, it seems, and how he really works into their lineup. So we've had quite a few squads bring him, and he's been able to find a lot of success when it comes down to it. I mean, any operator that's able to bring 2 shields, and not only 2 shields, but shields that actually prevent space and are able to deny time when they get exploded, that's quite the big deal, especially you know, in tandem with somebody like Alamau on the smoke, who not only brings their own shield, but also brings their own, you know, time-wasting utility. So we'll see if Team 1 can try and waste as much of Empire's time as they possibly can muster. Empire obviously now out and onto the board, and this is looking like a standard Dorms take. They've already got big tower control. Holding on to T3 for the staircase will be Dan, as he will assist Shepard. Shepard will get this wall open for the rest of the team.
Medic gone from the round. Everything quiet across the map here so far as Team Empire taking their time with the clear. Just a standard clear from them as well, moving in for mainly small tower. But obviously you can see the alternative team working their way into big tower in order to leverage control of the attic wall as well here. Team all going to be using at least one of their breaching charges in order to get access to the kitchen, making the situation for Neskin and possibly one other player on Team 1 a little bit awkward here. So he has to play into that transition in the middle of the site and hopefully fend off these attacks. Honestly, not much of a retreating route available for this player either. So now locked into the situation, going to have to try and fight for at least a 1-for-1 or more, of course, if the option is presented. Scyther, Joystick close by, ready to move in and try to isolate Neskin and take him out of the action.
Empire have done bang-up job so far of putting pressure onto Neskin, but not so much in actually able to clear him out. As wow, what a shot from Neskin downrange onto Scyther. Like a couple of bullets have to leave that SMG 11 to find the frag, and it's very much needed when it comes down to it. Dan, if it was the actual version of Yana there, that would have been an easy frag for him, but nevertheless, Neskin does get to back up and continue to play his life. Dan encroaching forward, but will he be able to actually find the frag? The shotgun's so very strong, and it'll win out yet another engagement. Another one falls to the blade that is the M590. Alamau finds one of his own off-site. This is Empire falling apart, but can Joystick bring it back from the depths? He cannot. Alamau with a quick headshot onto him as well, and it's always the last bastion of hope here for Empire inside of this round. He gets the initial frag, as well as the nitro sub cleaned up. Another one goes off in the distance, but he doesn't have very much time to try and win this, and it's going to be the vertical play as Neskin, still hunting below, finds the frag onto Always.
Far too much of a network surrounding Always there, although it's a valiant attempt to come out with a clutch. Team 1 still looking that much stronger in order to take control of that round. They continue to forge their way back into the game here with some great play overall, but definitely still some rebuilding to be done here as well. They have picked up some crucial rounds to get started, still have that 2-round gap to work with against Team Empire. Team Empire looking like we're going to see a slight change in the overall play from them. It'll be necessary, though, to bring the sledge into this round, considering that Team 1 will now be forced onto one of the 2 first floor sites. In this case, they're going to be choosing meeting and kitchen instead of the cafeteria kitchen split. So we will definitely need that extra soft breach, especially once second floor control has been taken by Empire. Also going to even switch away from the Yana, as I don't think they're getting as much use out of her clone or drone, whatever you like to call it there, out as much as they would like, so they're going to bring the Zofia instead.
Yeah, I don't necessarily blame them at all. I think that the only traction that we've seen from Yana in this matchup overall has been Empire getting that spot under the mute inside of Kitchen Hallway. We haven't seen it used to really clear laser gates. We didn't see Team 1 get too much traction with it inside of the Intel game, at least from our perspective. Obviously, they could be using that when we're not on their screens, but that's what we got, folks, so we're sticking to it. Team 1, though, are going to start setting up their kitchen and meeting hold, and this is what I like so much about Oregon. This is such an interesting fold when it comes down to it and how this map plays out. Kitchen is a dual site, actually, that's used for 2 different areas, not only meeting, but kitchen, but not only meeting, excuse me, also cafeteria as well. And both of these sites have a big stylistic difference. This one being that you can actually transition, being meeting, in between floors, not only from the attic, but also downstairs, which also comes as a secondary nitro cell hole to toss up onto stage. So there's a lot of different facets that you have to worry about when attacking meeting, as opposed to cafe, where you'd have to worry about possibly like a small tower hold or a shower hold, for instance.
Oh, we've got Team Empire out on the board looking to finally leverage some control of this attacking half for themselves. Things were great on the defense, but it seems like it's a different story now that they need to actually take some control away from Team 1. Their own prowess inside of this map that Stokes talked about at the beginning with so much play from Team 1 inside of Ladette for this team. Seems to be showing up, as with many teams, on that defensive side. So you've been seeing this side shine out more often than not for the overall advantage. A lot of drone work being given out here for Team Empire, as they've got nearly every single player trying to gather intel on the inner site there, and they should have been able to get a good amount of intel. Problem is the execute is nowhere nearby, so the specific player positions are probably not going to be super useful, except for the ones they know are playing into a bunkered spot. This has allowed for Joystick to take that super aggro position, for example, and now is trying to leverage it to swing on Alamo, but he's ready for it, man. He's got the dot lined up right on his headshot there, so bye-bye to Joystick. Bye-bye to the entry game here, too, once again, as the Ash is dropped. Someone else, more than likely Shepard or maybe Always here, going to have to pick up the pieces. They'll now try to clear out Attic by putting a hard breach charge on it, and that's a pretty good way to deal with it. Certainly forces the 2 players in Attic back downstairs, but that's the important message here. Remember, folks, we are not attacking kids. They still need to work their way down onto the first floor and take full control of one of those 2 sites. Also, they've only just gotten past the first step here for Team Empire.
Yeah, and honestly, that's not the biggest loss when it comes down to it. Team 1 should be able to play off-site when it comes to kitchen and really focus on not only big tower, but as well as this meeting hold. There's not nearly as much verticality around that area, so they should be able to siphon off a lot of this pressure from Team Empire. Yes, it will be pointed towards kitchen, but they definitely need to find some frags to actually transition into a take here. So they're stunted as of right now, and going into the last 45 seconds, this is more than likely going to be a Hail Mary to try and get this case down.
Down a player as well here, so you need to be careful about fight selection.
Oh,
this could be a big nade going in. Some serious damage to Alamau, but apparently not close enough for the kill. A second one is being primed already. Chucked in the connector between the 2 sites, but Alamau or anyone else on Team 1 is close enough to take any heat from that. Always will be able to drop into the site. Does get hit by a bullet as he attempts to put the case down onto the ground, but no follow-up. Neskin getting moving in. The Nitro not close enough in order to punish Always, so the case now down. The diffuser timer started, and all of a sudden we need to see Team 1 work their way back into the site. Oh, it's a big nade right there, but it's immediately responded to. Neskin drops, so is Scyther. Always out from his plant position as he gets one more kill before going down to KDS, and will be pushed into a 2v3. Our defenders having the slight man advantage, just down to Shepard and Dan on the Maverick and Zofia to clutch this out for the attackers here. Not a whole lot of time remaining. They only need to survive for 10 more seconds, and then it's impossible for Team 1, but that's a good start to the re-entry. Let me with a good pickup. Shepard with a response. He needs to keep them off the case. He can't do it. Lagonis should have been able to jump onto it with enough time, and in fact, he's gonna have it. I didn't know you could look away while defusing, but apparently you can. And we're gonna see Team 1 pick up that round.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. First things first, I didn't realize Valkyrie was an owl. Second things second, Empire. Wow. Okay. I obviously understand that round 9 did not go the way that it was initially planned by either one of these squads, but that was a hell of an attempt from Empire. The smokes down immediately. All of the angles immediately hopped on as well from Empire to give them the best chance to try and get that case put down. Team 1 can't battle back, whether it be through smoke grenades and or nitro cells. They can't find the frag necessary to shut down the case plant, but they're able to do it through other other means. The retake is just so potent from them, especially on the top floor. They were able to eviscerate that entire hold and put it down to Empire on their last 2 feet inside of shower as well as the shower hallway. And they find both of those frags, able to get that case back under their own control. So some amazing stuff right now from Team One, and you can see why they have chosen Oregon time and time again, no matter the opponent.
An earth-shattering round there for Team Empire, and that means they're going to need to go into a pause to discuss what exactly just transpired, and more importantly, how do we fix this? Because these last couple of attacking rounds just have not worked out for Empire, whether it's the early round or any issues that follow up inside of the execute. It's just not working out for them right now on Empire, and they need to fix it. A full point restoration needs to be done, it seems, to this attack here, and they don't have a lot of time to do it. They still have the lead, obviously, but only by one more round. So we will have to see if Team One will be able to continue to run their own comeback train, or if this pause will finally recenter Team Empire and give them the winning strategy they need, specifically against a basement take as well, one of the hardest sites to breach as the attacker, and allow them to pick up their 6th round.
Yeah, the basement site is basically the Rubik's Cube of Oregon. It's one that is just so very difficult for attackers to try and crack, especially with the recent changes to a lot of people's strategy when it comes down to how they're holding E-Box with the aptly named Laser Cube setup, as we called it in some previous casts. It's a very interesting one when it comes down to it. We'll see if Team One dedicate most of those Saria gates to that area, but that's more than likely going to be the case, really, when it comes down to it. They want to try and bait as much of Empire's utility via that area as possible, and these Saria gates definitely work their way into that type of plan. Obviously, they're not going to have the Wamai, so he won't be able to assist with those magnets, but the duel of Jaeger and Aruni still quite potent.
10 seconds to insert.
Just to finish the point from earlier before I nearly choked on broadcast right there. Just an important, an interesting, I should say, little stat line from so far the play we've had. We have so far inside of this tournament played every single map except Coastline. And that's just in the first day. So we're getting a...
I wonder why. I would never be able to guess why, Blue. I just wouldn't know.
We're getting a nice variance overall, which is good to see. Teams not necessarily sticking with just one single map, which obviously a little bit of a worry considering that we were going to be stuck with best of ones, that we might have had the repeats, but so far that theory has proven itself to be untrue. Well, we'll see if we work a Coastline play into the day here before we close things out, as we are getting very close to the end of day one here. Only about 1 to 2 matches remaining, depending on the stream you're watching.
Yeah, a lot of these regions truly favoring.
Oh, no.
Couple of maps and
big miss.
Playing those out. Yeah. Levy able to sit inside the corner. Oh no, it's Dan. Does he do it? It's free. Living inside of this man's brain free. That's how free it is. Oh man, Dan just not checking his corners. You have to make sure to check those corners, folks, because the one time that you don't is the time that an enemy is lying in wait, and that's exactly what Dan's got going for him. And to make matters even worse, he's actually cleared it with a hologram initially, so actually ends up making the mistake twice over. But now Empire still need to try and clean up this round, especially now down a man yet again here, and quite an important one, as Dan has been able to find a handful of frags that have been assisting Empire.
Front does bait out the position from Levy. The problem is nobody on that hatch to try and properly punish that, nor would they have really been able to, unfortunately, given the current positioning of the players on top of that, and as well as the play that was made inside of the freezer drop itself. So either way, everybody's just going to back away from that situation. We do have a lot of hatch work that's already been done here for Team Empire. They've opened up everything they need to play. Now they just need to make the actual play. The drone's working their way in, obviously gathering as much intel as they can get. They do see that the stack is relatively contained to the inside of the sites themselves. Not a lot happening by the back pillar or freezer positions. That should give Empire the confidence they need. You can already see that in the case of Joystick, to start pushing in and taking those initial extremities on the outside of the site before pushing in, now that they know the general layout. Problem is, those positions will have already changed by now, so they're going to need to re-drone again. They do have that capability, but they're quickly losing it. As you can see, the drone count melting here. 1 to 2 remaining. Scyther with a good start for the attack, but it's immediately put down. Neskin trades that. Now the rest of Empire trying to force their way in, leaving that little bit of excess time. The laundry push has been held up, though, due to a Toxic Babe thrown out by Team One's smoke, and that's causing some major problems on the attack right now. The freezer push was left by itself. Finally, finally, Laundry is back in the fight, though, and they are fragging out here. Joystick able to get one going from the side. Well. They're cleaning it up. Not a single response coming in from Team One here. Everything falls to Neskin. He's not even going to get this started. Joystick with one more to mop it up as Empire finally get another round on this attack.
Man, you cannot script this. The Empire strikes back. These guys are looking so strong right now. They end up losing Dan early on, and they translate this not into only a case plant attempt, but so many frags it'll make your head spin. They completely dissect Team One inside of sight, particularly Joystick inside of Freezer, not only getting rid of the bulletproof so that they actually have, you know, a break of LOS. No one's got any intel as to what's happening. They can only play off audio cues, and that was already going to be a difficult thing for Empire anyways, because they had no chance to try and break up those angles with smoke grenades or anything of the sort. They had to try and challenge, and they win every single engagement. But again, back to Joystick inside of Freezer. Not only does he get the camera, but he moves up, finds the frag initially, then moves all the way through Freezer to hold E-Box door and hold that deep rotate, cutting off Team One, making it to where the Goyo can't transition out of the corner inside of stock. Joystick is the entire reason that Team Empire won that round, and what a round it was.
So for Empire, finally bouncing back, and thankfully not needing to bounce back all that much. Just that one round being picked up by them there is enough to push them over the edge and onto match point, attributed with the earlier round they won in this half also. Now, Team One now looking to run the comeback flawlessly at this point. Need 2 rounds in a row. The good news is obviously losing basement right there. They do get to reattempt it. But the problem is Team Empire's got the winning strategy here now. So there's no guarantee that a reattempt on this same site is going to lead to a win for Team One. Specifically when it comes to their Freezer as well as Laundry holds. Need to rebunker themselves in those positions and make sure that Empire's not going to be able to get access as easily. And here's one big change up in order to start to facilitate that, as Lagonis looks to be setting something up in order to make this a little bit easier.
It looks like they're going to be bringing Mira along for the ride, something we saw inside of Empire's setup down low. And Mira, an operator that no one truly enjoys dealing with when it comes down to it. I mean, it's just constant pressure, you know what I mean? They're always going to have a view on you, and the biggest issue being that you don't truly know if that Mira is being manned or not. So if someone's standing there or not standing there, you have to respect it in the same manner, because at any moment in time, someone can peek you from that black mirror, and you'll just lose your life.
Important to note here, too, the specific Mira on Freezer is a very, very big addition here, as that was the main angle that Empire were using in order to get access to the site. More importantly, open up an angle for the Laundry players to be able to actually push forward. Without that, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get this attack started for Empire from the same angles they did in the previous round, meaning that Empire might have to mess around with some of the utility on the back box here over in Electrical, and of course, like the surrounding area by Backstairs and Pillar, too, which we know how difficult that is to get access for the attackers. We look at what exactly the attackers have. They certainly have the nade utility needed in order to deal with that, but it is, in my opinion, the much riskier overall execute, just due to how much can go wrong during that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the thing right now for Empire is that really what they're able to clear out with their utility. They can obviously go back towards that Freezer offense at the drop of a hat. It just really is up to how they dedicate this utility. And they already have used always exothermics. Both of them, in fact, are off of the board. So this is more than likely a sign of dedication towards this clear. And this is definitely going to be a more difficult path for them, given not only the ADSs, but also those Saria gates that we were talking about prior. They also have to deal with some very forward positions from these defenders, especially the Jaeger of KDS, who'll be playing around this pillar position as well as the construction door. He's going to continue to swing and try and find one of these initial frags that have been so few and far between for Team One, as Team Empire will put one into their pocket yet again here with a frag grenade. KDS trying to fight through, but oh no, it's Scyther who hops down the E-Box hatch. He'll pick up KDS, and he's wanting more. He sees one in the back of sight. He swings back in, but no, Team One battle back instead. And no, what is happening? They're just simply running at their opponents. It's all down to Alamau, who's able to clean up Joystick, but with 30 seconds remaining, it's down to a 1v2 with Shepard with Case.
Here's the problem. There's no way to know for sure which way Alamo's moving at this point either. They just got a sound cue right there, so they're going to assume that he's rotated into construction, and they'd be right to assume so, but without any additional utility, some damage has had to be taken here by Shepard on the push to the inside, trying to counter it. Case goes down to the ground, but Alamo with a quick headshot stops Shepard from doing anything after he places it there. Dan's alone now. The good news for Dan, it's planted for him, and he has the capability to extend this out, but Alamo's been tricky here. It's been hard to predict with his movement, and that's going to continue to be an issue. They meet each other. No one goes goes down. Alamo nearly does it, but the re-peek from Dan shuts it out for Empire as they take control of the map and the match.
Oh, the Steph Curry fadeaway with the ARX right there. Impressive stuff from Empire as they do it yet again inside of day one, closing out Team 1 7-4 here on Oregon.
That is going to be a flawless run inside of day one for Empire as they take 3 consecutive victories and not a single loss, meaning they'll be maxing out their point totals for today, taking home 3 overall.
What an impressive game from Team Empire. And I mean, even a fantastic game from our friends over on Team 1 as well. I mean, especially inside of this game, proving as to why we talk about that opening frag so much. Both of these offenses so dominant inside of that category. Stats-wise, only the defense only finding 1 opening frag on either half. So some pretty impressive stuff, but overall domination from Empire when it comes down to it.
You can't give Team 1 too much flack. Empire has been really one of the most, if not the most dominant team that we've seen here so far inside of day one of SI. Their ability to control a team after they get an initial advantage seems unmatched so far. Just absolute dominance over the pacing inside of these rounds, and it's not leaving their opponents a lot of room to think or, of course, wiggle their way out of these awkward situations that Empire is constantly putting their opponents into. It's some real masterclass play, and it's got to be scaring some of the other teams at this tournament who are going to have to go up against them over the next few days as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that this is a marathon, right? Like, this is only day one. We have 6 days of broadcast in a row, folks. I don't think that we've ever experienced like something like this inside of the history of the Six Invitational. From my knowledge, it's only been about 3 days for every single group stage from what I can remember as of right now. So this is an insane amount of play for these teams. They really need to pace themselves and continue to try and find their consistency throughout all of these days. We don't want to see Empire just, come out, show a masterclass day one, and then be nothing but a spurt on day 6.
Well, of course, there'll be plenty of opportunities for Empire to prove or deny that theory, but for now, we are going to go to a short break, ladies and gentlemen. We do come back. We'll have the analyst desk breaking things down from that game and getting us ready for the next one. So stick with us here at SI. We'll be back in just a few.